Save the Frogs Advisory Committee meeting. One thing that I would like advisory committee members doing on occasion is sending me educational materials or photos. The easiest thing is, if you think about what do you work on, you probably have a species of interest or some project, and providing any type of educational materials related to that. Good photos of your target species, paragraph or two about their natural history, threats, anything people can do. If you do have anything that's like a PowerPoint, a video, a one-page fact sheet that teachers can download about the issue, whether that is all about California red-legged frogs, all about habitat restoration, all about the effects of hydroelectric dams on frogs or something like that. That's the kind of stuff that you all probably have already. And with some minor tweaks, it could be something that could go up on our site pretty easily. Another thing, Save the Frogs Academy, we debuted several months ago, and we had 2 4-week classes, one related to getting people trained up on how to run Save the Frogs Day events, and the other one on our Lake Erie Toads campaign related to the Ontario government authorizing the harming, harassing, killing, collecting of legally protected Fowler's toads in Canada. And I thought those classes were successful, but I've been thinking lately how to do it all in a different, more effective manner, I guess, as far as just organizing things. And what we've come up with is Save the Frogs Academy will start twice weekly online classes August 11th. Every Sunday at 5 p.m. San Francisco time and every Wednesday at 11 a.m. San Francisco time. Perhaps occasionally slightly changing the time if need be, if, for instance, the focus is on a country on the other side of the planet where people are all asleep at that hour. But essentially twice weekly, Sunday night, Sunday evening and Wednesday morning, which I hope will allow people, regardless of their work schedule, to at least attend one of those per week if they're so inclined. And I guess I'll just run through some of the topics that we have going on so you can kind of get an idea. And then think about, would you want to run a Save the Frogs Academy class one day? Meaning you could give a presentation on what you do, and maybe it's just purely educational, or maybe you hopefully could bring in a few action steps for people to take, because we're going to have people maybe of all ages, maybe from all around the world, and a lot of them wanting to volunteer. The classes are going to be free, open to anybody, but if someone wants to be an official Save the Frogs Academy student, then we'll have them sign up and agree to do, say, 4 hours of extracurricular work each week, meaning that they'll be looking for stuff to do. And then eventually, after they take enough of these classes and get a good idea of how to work independently, they will embark on an independent project and at some point inform the class about what they're doing. So perhaps you all would want to, take part in that. And so give me 1 second here, and I will tell you about some of the classes. We've picked out the first maybe 6 weeks of classes, and it will be on these topics. The first one's just going to be an intro to amphibian conservation and my vision of Save the Frogs Academy. That'll be Sunday, August 11th. Wednesday, August 14th, will be all about atrazine, and I have special guest Dr. Tyrone Hayes, who will be giving a 20 to 30 minute presentation as well. And then we'll all discuss what to do about atrazine, which is currently, as of yesterday, undergoing a 60-day public comment from the US EPA. And on Sunday, the 18th, I will be discussing the organizational structure of Save the Frogs, which is something I've been thinking about a lot lately as a way to take hundreds or potentially thousands of volunteers and actually get them working in some organized fashion, as opposed to right now. It's more or less a lot of people want to volunteer, but we don't really have a structure in place, and therefore they're just people out there in the world who want to volunteer. And outside of Save the Frogs Day, people are not doing much because we have not given them specific tasks with specific people in charge of them. So I'll be talking about that. And then Wednesday, the 21st, I am going to be talking all about fundraising, how people can help us fundraise, how people can perhaps get better at fundraising for their Save the Frogs organization or for their Save the Frogs Day event. On August 25th, Sunday, Michael Starkey will be talking all about the pet trade and what people can do about the problems associated with it. On Wednesday, August 28th, Michael will be talking about California amphibians, natural history, threats, some of our campaigns. Now, perhaps Nina and Sarah would want to give a few minutes intro to their work on that day.
I have a lot of slides I could share because I gave a talk, I don't know, a couple years ago to, gosh, I'm forgetting the name of the agency now, but it's the agency who grants permits for taking water out of creeks.
Okay.
Yeah, excuse me, Department of Water Rights. Anyway, so I assembled sort of like a whole slideshow on amphibians that would be in creeks specifically. So it doesn't deal with any pond species really. So anyway, I could either, give Michael that PowerPoint or, expand on what he's doing, add a day, but
How long is your talk?
how long is it? Well, it was broken up into different bits. So there was one part that's, like 50 minutes that's just about natural history. And then there was another session that was specifically about, water extraction issues from creeks that could have an impact. So it was
Okay.
broken up into different sections.
Okay. Why don't, if maybe you could send both me and Michael the talk and we'll skim it over and
Okay.
then decide if you should, just give a 10-minute talk about California amphibians that day, or if
Okay.
we should just set up a full day for you to talk all about California amphibian issues. Or maybe
Right.
you and Nina could, both. Because, we have a ton of California is, as far as number of supporters goes, we've got more in California than anywhere. So,
Right.
I don't mind having, wait a month after Michael's talk and then have another day all about California amphibians. I'm sure a lot of people would be interested.
Okay. I mean, mine's even more provincial. It's really northern
That's
California because I
fine.
was
I'll
talking
work.
to.
Yeah, we're just trying to educate people about
Right.
amphibians. They can take your basic concepts and apply them anywhere, I'm sure.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so then moving on, September 1st, Michael Starkey will be talking all about students and how to get students involved, and we will hopefully have a lot of students of all ages attending that day specifically. All these classes are open to anyone of any age, but that's what that'll be about because we do have a big student focus. And Wednesday, the 4th of September, I will be talking all about Save the Frogs Day and how people can get active. September 8th, Sunday, we're hopefully going to have Gilbert from Ghana, Gilbert Adam, on the line to talk about Ghana, regardless. Even if he cannot be there, I don't yet have a confirmation. Michael and I will talk all about Ghana and our efforts there and how people, whether they're in Ghana or elsewhere, can get involved. Wednesday, September 11th, me and Michael will be discussing dissections and how we can get dissections out of schools and how people can help us do that. And then our only other one booked, we basically just came up with this whole schedule a couple hours ago, so we're going to keep adding to it. But Wednesday, September 18th, I will be giving a talk in Spanish, Intro to Amphibian Conservation in Spanish. And after that, one of the following weeks, then we can maybe get some specific classes going on related to Mexico or Colombia or some of our other Latin American efforts. So I just wanted to inform you that all that's happening, and our goal is to get as many people attending those as possible so that people get educated and involved with all of those projects. So, bear that in mind. Tell any of the people you know who may be interested. And then if you ever want to present, then that would be great. Let's see. Before I move on, does anyone have anything to say related to Save the Frogs Academy?
I
Okay.
definitely have additional materials that I could send your way. August is going to be a pretty crazy month for me.
There's no
Um,
hurry on anything.
okay, great. Yeah, I mean, if it's not in August, I'd be happy to, you know,
Yeah,
do a
all
session
this
or provide materials. So,
save the materials. We will always be adding stuff to our website. I say we're not in a hurry, not because frogs aren't disappearing rapidly, but because I always have a huge backlog of stuff to add to the website. So whenever we get stuff, we get stuff. As far as Save the Frogs Academy classes, that'll hopefully, my hope is that it'll just be permanent, twice a week, always. And we'll just look at our schedule. If I'm not around, if Michael's not around, then we just find guest presenters and book the spots. And somebody is always on the line talking to people about amphibian conservation.
nice.
And, that's all online. I still always like stuff happening in, real life. So any kind of courses we want to have, outdoor courses, half day things, 2-day camps for kids, summer camp, 5 days long. I don't know. Any of that can all potentially take place as Save the Frogs Academy activities. We just need to find people to run them, advertise them, figure out how much it costs, how we're going to either get a grant to do it or charge people to come. So if anyone ever wants to get involved with that, that's certainly a possibility. That stuff just takes a lot more planning than, hey, it's 11 a.m. I'm going to turn my computer on and get online and talk. All right. The next thing is Save the Frogs Day, April 26th. I just always like planning early, and I guess I just, I always hope that advisory committee people who have amphibian experience would run a Save the Frogs Day event that day, whether it's giving talks to kids, and it doesn't have to be precisely that day, giving talks to kids, leading a habitat restoration event, a frogging expedition, plenty of things to do. So just keep that on your calendar and in the back of your head, and maybe you can do something this coming year. And as always, I pretty much have no idea where I'll be on Save the Frogs Day. So I don't yet know what I'm doing. I guess to update you all, my plan, well, let's see. My current plan is to be More or less, well, I go to Belize in a few days. I'm gone all July. We're leading our eco tour, Michael and I, and a Sacramento professor, Dave Wyatt. I'll be back mid-August and be here essentially through the end of September. Our lease goes up the end of September, and the current plan is that I leave Santa Cruz and go traveling, and that we get a smaller office, probably in the East Bay where Michael is at least on a temporary basis while I'm traveling. And I don't know how long I'm going to travel, but I'd like to go back to Colombia where I was in April, May, and we have a lot of activity there later this year, and then perhaps go to India, Nepal, Bangladesh for a few months early next year. And then return, I don't know where, probably California, not sure. And that brings up the next point, which is our Save the Frogs organizational structure, which is, as I said, I've been thinking about it a lot lately. And in line with bringing that up is the fact that I do have a huge focus on international issues. But of course, we are in America, and there are plenty of American amphibian issues here, and plenty of people and funding sources that we definitely depend on for our work, whether it's American or international here. So we do need an American focus. So I won't go through this entire thing right now, but just to give you an idea of what I've been thinking about and working on lately is, let's see what happens here. Uh-oh. Do you all see this PowerPoint? Did that arrive on your screen?
Yep.
Okay. So we just, whoa, there we go. Basically, we're going to be trying to organize different levels of Save the Frogs at 3 levels: global, country level, and then local level, which looks like this, with me being global. And then we have various countries, of which you can see some that you've probably heard of, and a brand new Save the Frogs USA. My plan is that Brianna, who's in Seattle and has been helping me out for several years, becomes the head of a brand new Save the Frogs USA with a specific focus on USA, which we currently don't have anybody doing that, which is why sometimes it may appear we have more going on in other countries than we do here. And the goal of all this is to have people in charge of certain countries, and then all of us in charge of, or all of them, the executive directors of or presidents of those countries, are always in contact with me, so that I'm not in contact with the who knows how many hundreds or whatever people, and it all gets broken down. And then we have the local chapters like Save the Frogs UC Santa Cruz, which we've recently started up, and Save the Frogs University Wisconsin, Save the Frogs Three Rivers Michigan, all of which are, they're slightly unofficial, but I'm working on making all these things in a more official format, much more structured, and finding people to lead various positions, which you can see here, so that each of these organizations, whether it's more or less, whether it's global level, country level, or a local level, all works the same way, and that they have a board of directors and an advisory committee and action committees, which are where most of the volunteers will fall. So one person, there'd be a chair of each of these committees, a chair, and hopefully they would have a group of people, if there are enough people in the organization, that there'd be somebody whose whole deal it is to create educational materials, and he or she would have a team of people doing that. a different committee doing presentations, different one doing tables, a committee dedicated to campaigns, which is obviously huge because we could certainly use a group of people solely for bullfrogs in California, solely for dissections, solely for frog legs. A committee that does nothing but plan their organization's Save the Frogs Day events, deals with contests, promoting them, deals with marketing, different committee for marketing, promo, communications, somebody in charge of social media, somebody who's in charge of graphic design, specific people dealing with fundraising, memberships, coordinating volunteers, coordinating students, coming up with Save the Frogs Academy courses or making sure that people in their organization are taking the courses, people dealing with merchandise, and then one that's field work where your deal is get people out in the field doing frogging expeditions, monitoring, habitat restoration, building ponds, etc. So this is what I've been working on and figuring out how we can get people to fill these slots and work in this kind of structured manner, which is different than in the past where just a bunch of people all around the world kind of half doing stuff and not working together well. So this, as I said, one of our first Save the Frogs Academy classes will be all about this. And this I actually gave in Spanish an hour and a half presentation yesterday to the Colombians all about this so that they can figure out how to get Colombia all organized. And so if anyone has any thoughts on that, you're welcome to give them to me.
I think that it's really important to prioritize. Because this is, I think, sort of, the ultimate goal, but to decide, well, which slots do we want to fill first? So, I think this is a really great vision, but I'm also feeling a little bit overwhelmed. Like, wow, this is a lot. Like, how do you get from here to there?
Yeah.
So if you were to look at this and say, what's the first level of priority of slots to fill, and what's the next level? I think a roadmap is in order of where to start.
Yeah, and I guess for me this kind of is the roadmap, and this is overwhelming, but more overwhelming is how I usually feel without any of this happening. And that, yes, it is a lot in considering it's not only, well, which of these positions do we fill, but at which level? Global, country level, local level. So it is a vision, and it's right here. We see 25 slots right here. How many groups have 25 people? So it's not all it. I guess the way I usually work is what people are interested and capable of doing what, and those are the ones that will get filled. Like all of these are, they're all important. Some you have to have fundraising. If you don't have it, then you have problems, and we don't. Virtually none of this exists even at my level. Do I have people doing all these things? No, I do. I do 10 of these myself that nobody else is working on. So,
right.
But, the reason I really started thinking about this is because in Colombia, we have literally probably hundreds of people who would be doing stuff for Save the Frogs once we can organize it. And we don't have an executive director there. So we need to have a call for executive director. And we have people in lots of different cities, and they want to do stuff in their local region. So, it'll develop, and I'm working on making this a lot more thorough so that at the very least, because people write me all the time, hey, I want to start a Save the Frogs in my city, my university, my country, and this at least will give people some framework under which to operate. And as I said, also one of the goals is that I personally would rather be dealing primarily with as the executive director at the global level with my board of directors, my advisory committee, and the chair people of my action committees and all the other executive directors around the world, so that I'm dealing with all the top level people, passing them on my information and expertise, and then they pass it on to the people below them, so that it really kind of reduces the number of random people who are, coming to me wanting this and that, and therefore freeing my time to do the higher level stuff. So, it'll take a while to get this going, but as I said, I'm going to get Brianna working, her whole deal being Save the Frogs USA, coordinate USA people, and that will also free up more of my time and get more happening in the USA. So yes,
Well,
we do need to prioritize, and it is a vision, but it is the way, at least that I currently see, because right now the way I see it, Save the Frogs has the potential to be far larger than it is, because there's clear worldwide interest and applicability of all the things that we do are things that can take place all around the world, and there is interest all around the world. So that's our main issue right
right.
now is how do we make that happen? How do we make people be able to do this stuff independently, given that they probably have no background in any of this?
Right. Well, I guess if I were going to prioritize, I would actually have, you know, somebody who's a development director to really work on the fundraising, because it seems to me it's like once you have money to spend,
Yeah,
then you can
hire people.
hire people.
Yeah. And then you don't have to
And
deal with
so,
4 hours a week volunteers.
right. So I guess I don't know. That's where I would
Okay.
think would be. That's where I would put the priorities. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm hearing this coming out of my own mouth
We're going to
because
put you in charge. Thank you for
no, because
volunteering. Yes,
no,
I like that.
I've
And
always been an action person. Like, what can we do? Oh, raising money. What does that do? But the more I've gotten involved in different organizations, I really have come to respect the work that the development people do. And it takes a special kind of person who's, like, who is good at grooming donors. It's its own skill set. I think that it's very different from the skill set of being a scientist who, can count thousands of tadpoles over and over and do some boring, repetitive task a gazillion times. It just takes a different kind of person. And so I've just come to appreciate those kinds of people and the contributions that they can make.
yes, and it can be, potentially we could hire a professional fundraiser who's, that's their deal. They go into organizations, find out about the organization, write up. And, I think about that a little bit more these days, because it is true. We have way more. We have so many projects that have so little getting done because we don't have staff. And if we did, we already have the framework for the project. We just need money. And so, yeah, and I've told Brianna when we start, I only have a couple employees, but I've told them, I'd like you to start very soon putting more time into fundraising. And so we hopefully will have a little bit more fundraising focus, and maybe I will find some professional fundraiser. And there's something else that's, I think, pretty big that we just started talking about the other day. I spoke with Tom Biebighauser, and he is a professional wetlands builder who teaches wetlands building courses all around the country. and he just retired from the Forest Service and wants to be doing lots of these workshops. He likes Save the Frogs, and I think it's the kind of thing that we could, if we had someone who had the time and expertise to write up big, like hundreds of thousands of dollars kind of grants to the EPA or big foundations, that we would be able to get a large chunk of money to be holding these wetlands building courses, teach people how to build ponds, go to schools building ponds. And I think it's really good education and gets people involved and creates habitat. And that is precisely the kind of thing that it's probably best that we just find a professional fundraiser for. That being said, given enough people, I would rather just that all these committees, they could be run by volunteers if we had, if that was their whole deal. Hey, for 1 year, your deal is fundraising, whether that's through writing up grants or increasing memberships or contacting corporate sponsors. And if we had several people doing it, then it could make up for not having a person on staff, which currently I don't have money to hire a full-time development director.
How much do you think that costs? I mean, how much does it cost to hire a development director?
To hire someone like a full-time person, I would assume, I don't know, $50,000 a year. I just randomly guess, but I was thinking more of for a project, like, which I've
Uh-huh.
heard some people are like, yeah, I take, I don't know, 15, 10, 20% of what I raise. Some
Mm-hmm.
people are probably work by the hour, or, just a set fee.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure. And if professional fundraisers or people with significant development experience, then yeah, we should probably talk to them. One of my main things about why I've always put this off in the past, aside from probably not having the money for it, is I just always assume, okay, somebody's going to come in here. They're going to be asking me so many questions about the project and the financials and all this stuff that it's not even worth my time, because I'm the one who's going to be spending just as much of my time. But hopefully that's not the case. And once they get some basic info, hopefully it, does not take up that much of my time, given that they're going to be getting paid. All
Well, I
right.
wonder
Yep.
if it's worth it even to just do like, informational type interviews with people who work as development directors for other environmental organizations to just sort of, you know, find out exactly, how they got started, before they, you know, were
Yeah.
at some giant, well-funded organization like, say Center for Biological Diversity, or
Yeah.
I don't
That
know.
actually reminds me, I do know a development person from one of the major environmental organizations. So I'll probably contact them and
I could really
get their
recommend the
thoughts.
the development director we have at the Elkhorn Slough Foundation. She used to do development for the Smithsonian,
Okay.
and so she has really sort of big credentials, but has been just amazing here with us and is very approachable, and she'd be a good person to talk to.
Just to get information, or because she may work on the side?
I don't think she's doing any side work, so just to get
Okay.
information, but she seems pretty well connected in that community, so she might know
Okay.
somebody who'd be
Yeah,
willing to.
she'd be able to recommend somebody and tell me what I should expect as far as payments and stuff like that. So maybe you could send me her contact info.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, great. All right. Um, Dr. Sharma, if you're there and want to talk and have a microphone, then you're welcome to. And otherwise, does anyone have anything to say, or any other thoughts? Okay. Well, I think we'll conclude that, and we will very shortly come up with a new time to have this meeting, and we may even send out a Google Doodle poll so that we actually know, what the best time that the most number of people can attend is. And then I'll also put this video up on YouTube unless somebody objects, and then we can send that to the advisory committee people who did not attend, get them up to speed, and maybe inspire them to work harder to be on the line the next time. Another thing I'll put out, we currently have 5 people on our board of directors, which is our minimum number of people that we should have. Our bylaws allow us up to 13 board of directors members. And if you have any thoughts on who a good person, someone who would, hopefully already be familiar with what we do, but regardless, like what we do, and perhaps have some type of expertise and desire to be on our board, then definitely let me know. And on that note, I will conclude this edition of the Save the Frogs Advisory Committee meeting, and thank you for being here and for your help. But before I do that, since I just remembered, Sarah, do you want to say a couple quick things about the Tesla Park?
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess to give Nina and Dr. Sharma, if he's listening, an update, there's the California State uh, Parks has a recreational vehicle division, and they currently have a park that's in the Corral Hollow Creek watershed. It's eastern Alameda County. And they bought a parcel, a 3,400 acre parcel next to the existing off-road vehicle park, and they want to amend their general plan to allow off-road vehicles on this other parcel. And it is packed with amphibian habitat. There's 13 different ponds that have California tiger salamanders. There's red-legged frogs, and it's within the designated critical habitat for red-legged frogs. There's yellow-legged frogs in Corral Hollow Creek. There's western spadefoot toads. There's California newts, tree frogs, western pond turtles. Anyway, it's a really amazing piece of land, and there's a group of people who are trying to save the park, have it be set aside as a sensitive area. And right now there's an open comment period, and I've written a really detailed letter that Kerry's agreed to sign on to, and so has Tyrone Hayes. And actually, Nina, I think there's a link to the letter on the blog post that Kerry's putting up right now. So if you individually were interested in signing it as a red-legged frog expert, that would be great. Anyway, so I'm meeting on July 8th with the person from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and a person from California Department of Fish and Wildlife, who are also, I guess, going to be submitting comments on this revision to the general plan. But basically, the big thrust right now is to try to get the consultants who are going to be preparing the draft EIR to include as an option setting aside the parcel as a preserve. And because right now they're saying it has to be used for off-road vehicles, which is a really bizarre interpretation of the Public Resource Code. And they keep saying that, oh, it was bought with off-road vehicle money, but really it comes from the money that went to purchase the property came from gasoline taxes. So everybody in California who fills up their tank and pays gas tax, that's part of where the money goes, is to buy land for off-roaders. So it's a really bizarre situation where the off-road vehicle people feel like it's theirs, regardless of how sensitive the resources are on it. And there's also a lot of Native American cultural resources. There's historical resources. There's an old mine site there. I guess there used to be a coal mine actually on the site. So
do you know
there's yeah.
I was just going to ask, you were you involved with IB 104 at Cal too?
I was,
Is
and
this near where, I mean, because they
yes,
used to always take
yes,
everyone to Corral Hollow.
yes, and the people who own the ranch, because the place they would take people was on the Connolly Ranch, and the Connollys are fighting the state really hard. They're like the Connollys are some of the people who are behind the Save the Friends of Tesla Park. But all the people who used to run 104 and take people out to Corral Hollow are all gone, and it's all new people. And I've actually sent emails to all of the new faculty in the museum, and I haven't gotten a reply.
Oh, that's
Which,
sad. I wonder,
yeah,
but
it's
like
really
Vance,
sad.
I would think that Vance Friedenberg would be interested in supporting this too, because I mean, he was one of the people that was taking groups out to Corral Hollow back in the
Well,
day.
yeah, I'll contact Vance about it. I didn't realize that he had a connection. I mean, I first went there with Tyrone um, back in the mid '90s, and I didn't realize that Vance was also involved. So I'll definitely contact him.
This just gave me a
Yeah.
thought. Since Tesla Park is, I think, somewhere kind of East Bay, somewhere between Sacramento and San Francisco, we have so many people. Certainly, we've got a lot of supporters in Sacramento, and we
Right,
do have supporters all around the Bay Area, just not necessarily um, active in a volunteer sense. But
right.
we could have a day. I'm gone through about August 6th, and Michael will be gone a good chunk of July. And I don't
Uh-huh.
know I can't remember what the full time frame on all of this is, but and I don't even know if there's any amphibians out this time of year, but we could have, invite all our Save the Frogs people out to Tesla Park to show them some amphibians and talk about what's going on. And that would be a good way to get some people involved.
Yeah, I think it would be. It would take a little bit of planning because right now it's not open to the public. You have to get special permission to go in,
Okay.
but I'm assuming that we could.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I think, I mean, part of the problem is that um, the data aren't really great on the densities, especially like for red-legged frogs. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
do any kinds of spotlighting surveys at night to count individuals. The whole way that they looked at, they have this like really crazy catch per unit effort on DipNet samples, which I've never heard of anybody looking at density of red-legged frogs that way.
It seems
Um,
like
Catching or
it seems like
looking for adults that way.
well, it doesn't even, the reports are so bad, Nina, it doesn't even report what life stages they found.
Oh
It just
dear.
has like presence or absence for the different ponds. And I think maybe even, getting a group of experienced red-legged frog people out there to do spotlight surveys at night and actually come up with real density estimates could be, something that Save the Frogs could do just to collect, you know, trustworthy data, because I just don't think the people who are doing the monitoring in the state park seem to know what they don't seem to know what they're doing.
Who is doing their monitoring?
Um, it's not. I didn't recognize the name of the person. Um, I'd have to look at the report. Um,
Okay.
it seems to me like presence absence is the only thing that matters to the law. I think like if they're there and they're endangered, then they have to be protected. But regardless, as far as
Mm,
like, I guess my original thought was just getting the public out there. But as a
right,
separate thing,
right.
if it were, and again, I don't know, you know, time of year, if it can take place in August or what, but if, it's certainly, if if you can lead it, Sarah, like, hey, once a week on Monday nights at 7 p.m., we're all going to meet and go out and survey. If we put that on the website and announce it, I'm sure a lot of people would sign up. And it could be a, hey, sign up to do it kind of
Right,
thing.
right, right,
It could even be, you know, it's $10 suggested donation, and then that makes a little
right,
bit of campaign money or something like that. So,
right, right.
yeah, just,
Well, I think,
think about that.
yeah, I definitely will. I just don't, it's just not like a open park. I mean, part of what this is about is to make it so people who do want to just go out and enjoy frogs could utilize this park. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think that's no, I think even if people who are supporters of Save the Frogs would say, hey, I want to recreate by enjoying the amphibians at this site, and that this site is, good for other things besides riding a dirt bike. Um, and saying that, hey, this is a potential use and this is what should be proposed for the site. Because right now I don't know how feasible it would be to get permission to, I think we could get permission to do like a one-time event, but at this point I don't think,
Well, I think
because it's
that's a good way to start. Then I think you should look into it. For me, as I said, I'm going to be gone through August 6th,
okay.
and I don't have to be here for it, but
Right,
if you want, whatever it is, I think that you should look into, like, hey, we want to get a group of the public. This is a public concern, and how can I get a permit to do it? And then
right,
I think some
right.
people would show up. So, and then again, as I said, when Michael Starkey does his first California Amphibians thing, probably a
Uh-huh.
good idea that you talk even just for 5 minutes on that, even if it's not a full
Okay,
your full thing, but because it's going to be
okay,
lots of Californians on there.
okay.
So, yeah, well, so let's finish there. And thank you for attending. And we will let you know when the next meeting is.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kerry.
Okay, thanks a lot. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.